Good morning, everyone. Please put in the chat where you're joining us from today. We are in Seattle, Toni in LA, Monica in Sun Valley. Where are you today? Joining from Atlanta,
Puerto Rico, Pennsylvania,
Texas. So fabulous to see everyone this morning. We're going to wait for just a couple of moments as people continue to join us. Hello from the UK, Laura. And from London. Wow, I love when we're international.
I know.
And Hawaii, in Germany, it's just terrific. South Dakota. Oh my gosh, all over the country and the UK. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll just start in just a second here. In Canada. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Joni Parsons, co-creator of Rebel 11, along with Monica Smith. Monica, say hi to everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
It's so nice to have you here. Monica and I started Rebel 11, our community, to provide informative, edgy, and fun events and retreats for women around the globe. So thank you for joining us today. We're so happy you're here. So today we're going to be talking about confidence. You know, over the years and, you know, even in a day, I go high and low with confidence. And it's just something that, you know, it eludes you sometimes, and then it's just a part of your heart and soul at others. I'm so happy to have Toni here today to talk about her book, this fabulous book called The Hype Book. But before we get started, I'd like to read a little excerpt from it because it just says it so well. So let me just read a couple of things here. Your feelings, your perceptions, and your moods are hugely impacted by the thoughts that you entertain about yourself. So they have to be vigilantly guarded. They are a commanding force which determine whether you pursue life's fullness with optimism, pessimism, or indifference. We set goals, but seldom do we take time to stop and really look over our accomplishments. We quickly applaud the triumphs of others, but rarely revel. I love that you used the word revel there. Revel in our own achievements. Tracking success reveals our strengths and capabilities, and it provides a deeper consciousness of personal power, potential, and essentially growth. With that, welcome, Toni Purry.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited
LA?
to be here. Doing great, doing great. So excited to have this conversation and I've been admiring the Rebel community and what you all have created. So it's my honor to be here.
Thanks, Toni, so much for joining us. So I know to start, we want to ask a couple of questions to everyone. And so please join us in the chat as Toni asks these questions.
Yes. Okay. So one thing that, one of the reasons why the book became so important to me and why it became something that I needed to write was because I had my own crisis of confidence. And it made me start to take a look back at, ask myself certain questions. And I want to pose these questions to you all, and you can share them in the chat if you'd like to. But the first question I want to ask is, what is something that you are very proud of that you've endeavored and accomplished? What is something that you are proud of that you have either endeavored or accomplished? And I know you have to take a thought about that, but you can either write it down or jot it down in the chat. It's something that I think a lot of us don't spend much time thinking about, or at least what I found I didn't for myself. My professional license in education. I left a job I hated. That's a very good one. Starting my own business. Absolutely. I love that. a recent project of creating a customer networking on Zoom. I love that. Senior Olympic swimming, that's fantastic. Obtaining my PhD as a single mom. Wow, these are fantastic. You guys are so good at this. I
Being
love it. I love it.
abroad,
I love it.
I wrote my first book,
Oh my goodness.
getting my motorcycle endorsement.
Oh, that's fantastic. These are wonderful. Staying alcohol free for almost 2 years. Being an award-winning educator. Love that. Doing Peace Corps in my 40s. That's fantastic. These are absolutely
Wow.
wonderful. So the next question that I want to ask you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you about sharing your accomplishments? 3, 8, 2. Wow, these numbers are, they go the span. Ooh, uh, somebody said 10. I love that. 7, 5, 2, 8, 7. I love this so much. It's really very telling because I think those of you with the high numbers where you're very comfortable with it aren't as not as common as I found in my studies over the past couple of past couple of years, in that most women aren't as comfortable about sharing their accomplishments. And so it's exciting for me to read this and to hear this about you all, and also to read about your accomplishments. I absolutely love it.
And thank you so much for sharing. And we'll ask some more questions in a little bit. But Toni, will you tell us, let's start by having you tell us a little bit about you and your career, and then we'll talk more about the book.
Yes, yes. So I have been a career PR professional. That's what you and I have in common.
Yes, that's very true. We both have PR firms, or you
Yep.
had one and I still have one.
Yes, but I practiced PR. I studied it in college. I have worked in both for the federal government, for nonprofits. I've worked in just about every area of PR, and I've enjoyed the work tremendously. I also launched my own PR agency and ran it for 10 years, and it was a lifestyle and tourism agency. So our clients mostly were in the hospitality and tourism space. So we represented luxury hotels, destinations, airlines, high-end shopping centers. It was really, really, really fun, work. We were a generalist agency in that we had a few other clients like universities and some apps and tech companies. But for the most part, the lion's share of our business was in hospitality and tourism. And it was tremendously rewarding to do that work.
And then what happened?
Well, that's where things got interesting. It was around year 8 in running my agency that I found myself unhappy and not as fulfilled, and really, quite honestly, very burnout. I just could not seem to find the joy for the work that I was doing. It was a small agency. I had a team of up to 8 employees, a rock star team of employees. We had an impressive roster of clients, but I would wake up in the morning and think, I don't want to do this anymore. Or I would lay in bed and think, I think I have a cough or a cold or a sore throat. Maybe I don't need to go into my office today. And it was our own beautiful creative office space. But I found myself just really burnt out and not wanting to do the work anymore. And I struggled. I mean, I struggled with giving myself permission to pivot to do something else. I'd call the company my baby for 8 years, and all of a sudden I didn't want the baby anymore, and there was nothing wrong with it. We were successful. We were award winning. Like I said, we had an impressive roster of
Mhm.
clients, but I was just completely unfulfilled in what I was doing. And that struggle to pivot really, it quieted me down. And quite honestly, I suffered in silence for 2 years. I didn't tell anybody I didn't want to do it anymore because it sounded like, cry me a river that you don't want to do something that's succeeding. And to be quite honest, we had really done well. I launched the company in 2007, the December of 2007. So, that
Yeah,
was
right
right
before the
before the,
crash. Yeah.
right. And when I launched the company, I was really naive. I didn't quite know what recession meant. I just knew I wanted to launch a business. I had been a VP of a boutique agency in Los Angeles and was just ready to spread my wings and do something myself. And so we soared. We really did well despite the recession. So to have built a company at the beginning of that time and then to have reached the level of success, it seemed just kind of crazy that I didn't want to do that anymore. Um, and what I will tell you what happens when you don't love what you're doing. As an entrepreneur, anybody here who's an entrepreneur, you know, if you don't invest love into your business, there's nothing for it to reciprocate. And that caused a strain on the business, which made me want to get out of it even more. So I started working from home. We moved out of the creative office space. I transitioned my full-time employees to contract employees. I didn't pursue the renewal for our longstanding clients. I really just wanted to do something different, but couldn't quite figure out what that difference was.
So Toni, tell me how the hype book came to be.
Well, I happened to be it was the midst of being in a severe funk. I mean, just I had no confidence because here I had now closed my agency. I'm at home. I have the blues like nobody's business. And I'm walking through the living room, and my husband is watching a documentary about Muhammad Ali. I'm not a boxing fan, but he is. And I found myself absolutely captivated by his confidence. I was like, how did this man maintain his confidence in the face of defeat? How did he maintain it when the country despised him because he didn't support the Vietnam War? How did he maintain it even when he was stricken with Parkinson's disease? There was just whenever you think of him, there is just this image of confidence.
Confidence
I
all the way
just
around,
all the
all the
way
way
around.
around.
And so I'm watching this show, this documentary, and a few clips later, I see right before he's going into a fight, his hype man, his corner man, Budini Brown, is in his face, ardently yelling at him, reminding him of his knockouts and his wins, and that he's the greatest and he's the champ. And my thought was, well, if we all had a hype man reminding us of our wins, we'd have that kind of confidence as well. And in that moment, I thought I need to make myself a hype book. I need to go ahead.
Oh, so Toni, I think you've got such an interesting story as we talked the other day about your life and confidence that, you know, is very powerful at one point in your life. Then it wanes a little bit and you gain your confidence back. And again, I mean, it can be in a day, it can be,
Right.
you know, in a week or in a moment of, you know, a period of time.
Right.
And as we talked the other day, you set out at a very young age, very confidently to do something. Will you please share that? Because this is a very important part of Toni's journey and an incredible story that you'll understand more about why she's talking about confidence. And will you please share about the pageant?
I will. I will. So when I didn't go straight to college out of high school, and when I decided to go, my dad especially was so proud and so happy. He's like, "I'll pay for it. I've got it taken care of. You don't have to worry about it." Well, I've been living with some girlfriends, and so I asked, would he pay for me to stay in the apartment as well? And he said, I'll pay for one or the other because I was going to school in my hometown. He's like, you can live at home or you can live in the dorms, but you know, I'm not going to pay for an apartment. So my immediate thought was, how can I get a scholarship and get him to pay for the apartment? I know my dad, if I can get great grades for the year, then I'll be set for the next 3 years. And so what I did was I found out that the pageant at school gave away a 3 semester scholarship. Now, I had never done pageants before. We really hardly ever watched them on TV if they happened to be on while we were home, I guess on a Friday night or Saturday night, whatever night they came on. We'd watch it then, but it was not something that I grew up exposed to. And I thought, well, you know, you put on a swimsuit, you answer a question, you do the pageant wave and you get 3 semesters. I was just so naive about, how the whole pageant system. So I entered into the pageant and went to the interest meeting. And I went to school at Alabama State University. It's a historically Black college in Montgomery, Alabama. And I found out at the interest meeting that that pageant was a preliminary to the Miss Alabama pageant, which went on to the Miss America pageant. And my thought was, oh, so this is how they pick the Miss State. And I also found out that there had been 70 years of pageants at that time, and there had never been an African American winner. And I was just shocked. I could not believe, wait, in 70 years, there's never been an African American winner. Did nobody try? And no, the answer was no, it just didn't happen. So my goal of winning scholarship money became my goal of I need to win Miss Alabama so I can level the playing field. And so that all girls can look up and see that this is possible for them. And so I did win the campus pageant. So I got those 3 semesters. I went on to Miss Alabama. That qualified me for Miss Alabama. I made the top 10, which was fantastic, but I didn't win. And I was, oh, excuse me here. I put on lashes for you all, and I feel like they're coming off. Um, um, we've been home so much that I don't get dressed up like this. So
No,
this
but
is really nice. um, so anyway, so I made the top 10. It was fantastic. I didn't win. I thought that's okay. I can compete in another pageant and another preliminary and go back next year and win. I competed in the first pageant. I was first runner up. I competed in another pageant. I was preliminary pageant. I was first runner up, and another first runner up, and another first runner up. And a lot of people were telling me Alabama's not going to have a black winner. And they weren't the dream killer type. They were the people that felt like they were realist. It's just not going to happen. And I competed in another. I was second runner up, and then a fifth one. I was first runner up again. And it's amazing though, never once did I feel like this was impossible or this was an impossible dream. I had this fortitude, this determination, this faith that I could actually be the one to break that barrier. I even went to the vice president of academic affairs at our school, whom I had come to know because he was a member of the private fitness club where I worked. And I went to him and I said, Dr. Steptoe, so I'm competing in all these pageants, and I'm going to be the first Black woman to win Miss Alabama. And all of these schools are going to be vying for me to come to them and offer me scholarships. And so if you all want me to stay here, then you're going to have to really offer me a great scholarship. And he just, kind of rolls his eyes and he says, all right, Miss Johnson, which was my maiden name. If you win, I'll give you that scholarship. And I said, and I want my books paid for, and I want a housing allowance. And he just
and
said,
so what ended up happening,
well,
Toni?
it's so interesting. I competed in actually, he agreed to what I wanted. I competed in a sixth pageant. I was first runner up, a seventh, and an eighth. Finally, the eighth one I won. So that meant I was going back to Miss Alabama again. I made the top 10 at Miss Alabama, but I didn't win. I was devastated. I thought, oh my goodness, everybody is right. Alabama's not going to have a black winner. Well, the pageant director of the Miss Alabama USA pageant, which I didn't even know about, she contacted me and asked if I would compete in her pageant. And I said no. And for 5 months, I said no. And then right before that pageant was to happen, which did not have preliminaries, I was called and told I needed to get myself up there and not give up. And so I agreed to do that. I called and she said she would let me get in. She had gotten an application for me. I later found out that my mom had submitted months before. And I made that one had a top 12, and then the top six, and then the top three. And on October 31st, I ended up becoming the first African American Miss Alabama USA, breaking a 72-year glass ceiling.
I
And
just love that story because your persistence and confidence paid off, Toni.
it
It
did.
really did. So,
It did.
this leads really nicely into my next question, which
Yes.
is confidence a mindset or is there more to mastering it?
I think it's both. I think it is a mindset, but it's a mindset that absolutely has to be mastered. It is, it's something that we have to work at, on a regular basis.
Hmm.
It is something that we have to focus on. I say it's like a muscle. It is a muscle that you need to constantly be flexing, feeding, nurturing, taking care of, because it works for us in ways that you can't even imagine. Think about it. How often does confidence win over competence? Sometimes you see somebody that's reached a high position and you're like, how in the world did they get there? How are they doing that? And a lot of times it's confidence that will
Mhm.
allow someone to get there, even when nobody believes that you can do it or that what you have. And I think that is something that all of us need to think about and realize, that we have a duty to take care of and hone our confidence and make sure that we are managing it so that it works for us and not against us.
So what are some tips that you would give people today about confidence?
So, one of the first things I say is it is so important that we take inventory of our achievements. Just now, asked everybody to write down some things that you've accomplished.
Mhm.
All too often, we will achieve something and then we're on to the next, or we achieve something and then we're on to the next. But when we take the time to relish, or if you stop and you think about when we have a failure or a setback, or we're misunderstood, we'll ruminate over that for sometimes days, weeks, years. Sometimes we'll think about, I should have, I would have, I could have, and we'll beat ourselves up over it. But when we achieve something, we don't really spend the amount of give the amount of mental real estate that we do to our failures and our setbacks, and that has a damaging effect on our
Does.
confidence. Because how we see ourselves, how we're looking at ourselves, the mirror in which we hold up in front of ourselves, it has so much to do with how we view ourselves. When I closed my agency, all I could think of was, I shouldn't have done that. I should have powered through. I should have stayed there. But I really wanted to do something different. And it wasn't until I sat down in my living room floor for 2 days, writing out my own hype book, taking clear inventory of my achievements, my successes, things that I had done, like pro bono work that my agency had done, or big accounts, or even personal things like running the LA Marathon. Those things that made me personally very proud of who I am. And it just caused me to shift and to look at myself through my success lens versus that harsh critical lens that I think all too many of us spend way too much time doing.
Toni, that's so true. We just had a Rebel 11 speaker talking about changing your story, the story that
Mhm.
you tell yourself, which is usually so negative, right?
Right,
It's
right.
like, how do you change that story to be positive? And, I've struggled with, living on more of a negative side for so many years that, my word for the year was positivity.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm going to have a mindset of positivity this year. Now, of course, I struggle with it just because of all of the things that you said, but
Sure.
it's so important to change your story from the
Right,
negative to the positive, because we don't revel, to use your word
right,
and ours,
right. Hmm.
um, in ourselves enough. And to be able to actually sit down and write down your accomplishments. I've been really utilizing your book
Oh,
since
good.
I've gotten it.
I
And
love
one
that.
of the things that I love is Toni has 6 strict rules of engagement.
Oh, yeah.
And so let's talk about those. Here they are right here. 6 strict rules, very strict, but they're
Very
very
strict. Very
positive.
strict.
And let's start off with the first one, which is no modesty zone.
Right. So in the book, it really is, whether you are using this book or your own journaling, is this is where you don't be modest, don't be bashful, don't shrink, don't dim your light, don't hide. This is where you brag and you boast and you be all that you have been created and designed to be. You tell that very positive story about yourself. You shine your light as brightly as you can. So it's no place to be modest.
And then the second one is regularly document your achievements.
Right. So I think it's important. It's so easy to forget. You know how when maybe you're applying for a new job and you take out your resume and you're updating your resume and you kind of have this aha about all the things that you've accomplished that you forgot about that you have done. It's that sort of thing. When you are regularly writing down your achievements, then that becomes more of what you are thinking about of yourself than it is those negative thoughts that I think we entertain too much of.
And this third one I really like because I really like thinking of the year in months and quarters versus 365 days. So
Yes.
review your entries. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So the book is designed, I wanted it to be really beautiful. I worked with my longtime graphics partner and designer, Joanna Holden of Modular Inc. And we wanted it to feel like a tabletop book, but something that you enjoyed looking back on and seeing yourself living your best life on those pages. But it is reviewing those on a regular basis. It's not just writing it in a journal and putting it away on a shelf, but it's putting it somewhere that you are looking back on that and you are constantly seeing yourself in this light, reminding yourself, I did that. This is who I am. This is what I've overcome. This is what I've accomplished. This is how I mastered this, or any of the things that you all listed in the chat. Just reviewing those things so that they are the things that you're thinking about on a continual basis.
And number 4 is declare your own rules.
That's true. So
I like that. I'm a
a
rule
really
breaker
fun
and I like
story
making my
that
own rules.
so here's the thing is a quick story that I like to share with that is when I first started my company, and you and I talked about this, I read somewhere that to be successful, you made a successful company made $1 million in their first year. And so I declare we're going to make $1 million. Now, it was the beginning of a recession, and I had nothing, it was kind of an arbitrary number, really, because I didn't even think about what the other company was that they said did that. And 18 months in, I had not made $1 million. And I was having a meltdown at my desk. I mean, tears and all. And my controller called me and she's like, what's going on? And I said, everybody was right. I shouldn't have started the company. We're 18 months in. We haven't made $1 million. And her response was, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, this is
Yeah, in the middle of a
serious.
recession.
I know. She said, you have a thriving company. You have a talented team of employees, and you are crying because you didn't make $1 million. Cry me a river. And I thought, I can't believe you don't understand me. And her response was, slow your roll, Oprah. You will get there. But
What a great
you're
line
doing
that is.
fine. I know. And honestly, that became, for years, that was a bone of contention between us. I would tell her, I can't believe you didn't have more empathy. And she's like, I never will, Toni. You were doing extremely well and you weren't giving yourself, credit for that. And it became this thing that I looked back on and I let somebody else determine what success was for me as opposed to determining what I felt, what made me feel successful. And so it's why I said it's important that you set your own rules. You determine yourself what success looks like for you, not anybody else, because you know yourself more than anything. And you know how your accomplishments and the things that you've overcome and achieved make you feel, whether
Well,
society says it's a big deal or not.
that's what I was just going to say is society sets so many rules for us and they're not always great at
Right.
all for
Right.
you or me or anyone. And I love like being the owner of your own destiny and setting your
Yes.
own rules. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Number 5 is journey of recollection.
So it's not, I say in here that it's not a race to the finish. This is,
Mhm.
let this book or let as you do this process be a journey that you are just collecting these things about yourself and taking note of these things as you are on your journey. We oftentimes think we have to reach a certain point in this amount of time in order for it to feel good and to be proud of it and to feel like success. And that's not the case. Let it be a journey and collect those accolades and those feel good moments and that excitement about yourself all along the way, and don't limit it in any way.
Okay, number 6 is one of my favorites because I don't feel like we do this at all
Right.
or as much as we should. This is something we practice in our office every week. It's like, what are your victories from last week? Let's celebrate. So talk to
Yes.
about celebrating and acknowledging those victories.
So here's the thing is a lot of times when, let's think about if your girlfriend win, wins an award or if she gets a promotion, you'll say, let's go out. We have to celebrate. You
Celebrate.
did that. I want to celebrate that. But how often do we take the time to celebrate ourselves, the accomplishments and the achievements that we do? And I don't mean reward yourself for it, because I like to use this example when your child, has a birthday, you don't reward them for turning 10, you celebrate. Celebration is a way to commemorate that moment, to make it special. And when we make those moments special, we are more likely to remember them and to keep them and hold them dear to us than when we just, like we said, are on to the next thing. So taking time to celebrate yourself, to revel in yourself, revel in your accomplishment, that's a really, really good thing. And it's a great practice for shifting um, the lens in which you see yourself. There's something about celebrating, something about making a moment of it. And it can be anything. It can be a happy dance in your kitchen. It can be
Be a
a
happy
glass of champagne, it can be a day at the spa, whatever celebration looks like for you, whatever commemorating that thing that you did looks like for you, then do that. But it's you set those rules, you determine what that celebration looks like, but you also make sure you are taking time to actually do that celebrating.
I just, excuse me, I just love that so much. And I encourage everyone that's joining us today and anyone who ever views this to celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. It's so important to um, just have a little bit of a milestone. And, like Toni said, whether it's a happy dance, like in our office, we used to have a dance party if we got a great hit or
I
new
love that.
client, and I'm telling you that just boosts the energy, whether it's with a group of people or for you individually, so much. So
It does.
Toni, talk to us about how the book is laid out. There's several different sections, so will you
Yes.
talk about those sections?
So, yes, the first half of the book is actually practices that really give you a chance to take a look at who you are. What are your gifts, your talents, your qualities? Who are you? And to really see yourself. There's one section in it that I love. It starts out with word power. And it talks about how words, they have the power to influence us and to persuade us. And they are just very dynamic. How often do we say, I'm such an idiot. Oh, I'm so stupid for doing that. We will beat ourselves up with words. But I want to change that and see that change to where we're using more positive words on ourselves. And so there's a bunch of words on a page that you can choose from, or you can pick your own. And then there's a diagram on the other side where there are all of these word bubbles around you at the center of it, where you describe exactly who you are, using those words that are affirming and very positive and really demonstrate who you are. And then there's a section that's things that you've overcome. I love this overcome section because a lot of times we look at people like, I have a list of all of these people like J.K. Rowling, she overcame rejection. And then Vera Wang overcame failure, and Stephen King overcame rejection. Just as so many in here. Martin Luther King overcame racism. We look at these.
I was just showing this on
Oh,
the
yes.
so you can see that. I mean, there's just so many listed here. I was just going to say Oprah overcame abuse and Steve Jobs overcame being ousted. We can overcome anything in our life.
Right. And here's the thing is a lot of times we don't. We sometimes we think of what maybe we have fallen victim to,
Mhm.
and we hold ourselves hostage there. But when we really stop to think about the fact that we actually did overcome that, we have moved on, we're doing better, we're doing new things, we should actually see ourselves as an overcomer as opposed to a victim of something that may have negatively that may have happened to us. So the first half of the book is our practices. And then in the middle of the book, it's actually a section of reflection. This is where you take time to go back and reflect on it's a calendar, a year calendar, so that you can go back and take time to reflect. And then the last section of the book are the journaling sections, and it's divided into 6 categories: major milestones, significant victories, health and wellness achievements, good and charitable deeds, life lessons, and then lessons learned, because things don't always go the way we want to, but how do we extrapolate how we are all the better, wiser, more informed as a result of the things that maybe, aren't so favorable that we've gone through or that we've overcome. And so I wanted it to be very intentional about how you write about how you journal about your accomplishments. And it's not just about just writing. It's how when you have a failure or a setback, how we pick that apart. I mean, we do like microsurgery on those things that we're not proud of. Well, I wanted to do that same practice here. So here's one for health and wellness achievement. What was your health and wellness achievement? What was it first, and how did this represent you taking care of yourself? And the next question is, what's the story behind this achievement? The next question is, what motivated you to take care of yourself in this manner? And then it's got a bunch of boxes that you can check, asking you what personal strengths do you realize about yourself as a result of this health and wellness achievement. And then at the very end of each one of them is the question, how do you plan to celebrate this accomplishment? So that you get in the habit of celebrating, the things that you do, even if it's, I got up every day this week and I did my walking, or I did my stretching. It's you set the rules, you decide what's important to you, what feels good, what you want to be reminded of. Oh, and then there's also a section of suggested ways that you can celebrate, yourself. And I remember when I was writing the book, and I have a group of girlfriends that we're on a text thread together, and there's about 8 of us on the thread. And I sent a question and said, hey guys, I'm doing some research. Can you tell me how you celebrate yourself when you accomplish something? And it was crickets. I'm like, okay, what's going on with my girlfriends? Hello, I asked you guys a question yesterday. And somebody finally got back and said, Toni, you know what? I really don't celebrate myself. And then another girlfriend, and then I decided to go on Facebook and do the question there. And most people said, I really don't. So then I started asking, how would you celebrate yourself? And so from that, I gathered a lot of suggestions on how people could, what that looks like, for them. Is it a matinee movie? Is it, a glass of champagne? Is it, my husband suggested a nice cigar. and, so
Right. I mean, it can be
whatever it is.
anything. So Marianne says in the chat, celebrate going from I can't or I have to I can and I did. I love
Mhm.
celebrating that and the small achievements to keep resetting my thoughts
That's
about
it.
self and achievements. And thank you so much for this inspiration. It's
Oh, that's
really
good.
true. It's just being able to switch that mindset is so important. The other thing that I love about the book is that it's filled with wonderful quotes. And I'm just going to read a couple of here. One is from Oscar Wilde. It says, to love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Now,
Mhm.
if we actually lived by that instead of living in negativity, but had that lifelong romance with ourselves and wouldn't talk badly about ourselves, we would never talk badly about our friends in the way we talk about ourselves, right? So I love that one. And then, of course, I have to quote Muhammad Ali just because that was your inspiration. And I just love this quote: I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was.
No, I
So
know. Here's the
how
thing is,
perfect.
men usually don't have a problem, celebrating and seeing themselves. We are taught to be modest and to be humble, and I think that keeps us from actually living, loud and proud and being that example. This Miss Alabama story, I'm going to tell you something really interesting. I That happened 30 years ago. Next year it'll be 30 years ago when I won Miss Alabama. And it's hard to believe it's been that long. But it really wasn't until these past few years that I've even started sharing that story with anybody. And I don't know why I didn't. It felt kind of braggy, and it felt, I wasn't the pageant girl that, when a lot of girls get into pageants, I couldn't, if you said, I'll give you $1 million to name a Miss something since that year, I could not name one. So it wasn't, I really did it because I wanted to level the playing field. So my reasons for getting into it weren't traditional reasons, but it just wasn't something that I, told anybody. A lot of my girlfriends would find out years later and they're like, wait, what? You actually did that? And it's been in my own self-discovery that I realize it is something that I should celebrate. And it is something that helps to inspire other people to see what the possibilities are. Maybe not a pageant, but what determination and what fortitude and what tenacity can do when you hold steadfast to your convictions, that can be a major door opener for you. And not being bashful about sharing what you've done
Mhm.
is definitely the way that we shift um, just this narrative about, women have to be more modest and quiet and not be braggy or showy about the things that we've done, because it's in seeing those examples and hearing about those things that we are often inspired and we realize, what's possible. I've been reading the book, or I read the book, uh, Jamie Kern Lima. She has anybody read this book? This is a fantastic book. Okay, so she is the founder of It Cosmetics. She sold the company to L'Oreal for over $1 billion. And it is the largest acquisition of a company, a cosmetics company. And she was the actual first CEO in L'Oreal history, their over 100-year history, to become, she was the first woman to become the CEO of one of their businesses, which is just unbelievable because their market is women. And so she writes this beautiful book about her journey of all the rejection and everything that she went through in order to build this. But I love this book so much because there was something that she talked about when she was named to the Forbes richest list. She was very uncomfortable with that. So she would have her team change it to Forbes most successful self-made woman list as opposed to the Forbes richest list. Can I read a little bit from?
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
She says, I have a confession. In the past 3 years since making the list, my public bio has read Jamie on the Forbes most successful self-made women's list, when the correct name of the list is richest. I replaced richest with most successful, thinking it was the most tasteful and it was more tasteful and humbler. Every TV appearance I've ever done, keynote speech I've ever delivered, every award I've ever received, the bio supplied by my company public relations team swapped out the word richest. Then, just this year, I had a huge epiphany, a legit what have I been doing moment. I realized that there is a huge power in other girls and women seeing me, self-made woman who started with virtually no money, on the Forbes richest self-made woman's list. Because when we see something that is possible, it's so much easier to imagine it for ourselves. And when I
Wow.
read that in her book, it resonated so much with me and reminded me that I cannot shy away from or back down from or be modest about, sharing my accomplishments and celebrating myself. It's one of the reasons why I wrote the quote that's on the back of the book: the presence of humility should not mean the absence of personal accolade.
Mhm.
We can pat ourselves on the back, and we can still live with humility, but it's okay to share what we've done and be proud and see ourselves as that shining light, because it really helps others.
Well, and I just have to say, if we all did that, Toni, we could change the world faster,
Right. Yeah.
right? And that is my goal, and our goal for Rebel 11 is for women to change the world faster. I mean, it's one of the many goals that we have. But I mean, just if we stepped into our own power and celebrated our success and showed up in that way
Right.
every day, what could we do? How
Right.
could we change the relationships in our lives? How could we change things at work? How could we change the world to be a better place? I mean, that is a beautiful thing to think about, isn't it?
Right. Well, when you think about it, when you are seeing yourself for the successful, the accomplished, those things that make you feel good about yourself, you
Hmm.
just show up differently. You
You
show
do.
up with a confidence about yourself that you don't do if you're constantly beating yourself, or you're shrinking, or you're dimming your light, or you're so worried about making somebody else feel uncomfortable, because you accomplished something. You just show up differently when you change and shift the perspective and look at yourself through your success lens. Because I really believe we are a culmination of more of the things that we accomplish than our failures. We just give
Absolutely.
more mental real estate. We spend
Hmm.
more time thinking about those other things than we do the things that we've achieved.
Okay, everyone, no more dimming your light.
No more
Okay,
dimming your light.
no more dimming your light. So, Toni, I know you were going to ask a couple of more questions that we can share in the chat.
Yes, I want to ask, and I think we kind of started this here, but how do you celebrate yourself? How are you all celebrating yourselves? Tell us what are some of the things that you do to celebrate your achievements, your accomplishments? I'm really curious to hear that. That's always interesting to me to find out how people are doing it and how much they are actually doing that. And evening out, I love that. That's always a nice one. Drinks with gal pals. Yep, that's another one for me as
I'll just
well.
say this, a happy dance.
A happy dance. I love that. Never do. That's very honest. I splurge on a massage. That's fantastic. Um, Doing my hair. I love that. That's fantastic. Those are the things that they make us feel good.
Hmm.
It is literally the way that you pat yourself on the back for a job well done, and you feel good doing it. Take a trip shopping. I love these. These are those things that really help us. It's just a way to commemorate that thing that you've done. And I'm proud to hear that you all are doing it, because I know it was not something that I took the time to do. I was too busy, beating myself up over things that I felt like I had not accomplished, or I should have done even more. We didn't make a million, but we were really thriving in a recession. I should have been celebrating that. Instead, I robbed
Absolutely.
myself and my team of being really proud of what we were doing, despite everything that was going on around us.
And what was your next question?
How much time do you spend? I closed my window, but how
Oh,
much do you have it?
how much time do you spend thinking about your failures and disappointments versus your wins and accomplishments? I mean, I'll take that on. I'll just please share in the chat. But,
Mhm.
I have to say, and I shared this earlier, but I'm much more focused on my disappointments and, this negative thought. And again, it's always so much better to have to switch your story
Yeah.
and to celebrate your success. Go
It's
ahead.
a common thing. It is about, this is the thing, is how do you get into the practice of retraining what you think about, what thoughts you entertain. I think you and I were talking about this. When my husband does something and maybe he fails at something, or he is disappointed in some sort of outcome, he'll say, "I'm sorry," and then he moves on. And I'm like, he's not sorry enough. he's, he's just not, he
I
doesn't feel
think
bad
that's
enough
a man
about
and
it.
woman thing, though. I really do.
It
I
is, but
think
I
we
tell you
I think
what,
we're more in our brain, in our heads than
I
you
do
guys are
too, but
sometimes.
I think there is something to gain from being able to just move on.
Oh, I do too. Absolutely.
Yes, we're disappointed. Yes, we're sorry. Yes, we have regrets. But I think women tend to dwell in that place a lot longer than we should. Even if we could spend equal amounts of time,
Yes.
let's not go to the extreme. Let's spend as much time feeling happy about the things that we accomplish as we do about our failures. That in of itself will change the playing field, and it would be a major boost to our individual confidence. Because like you said, confidence, some days it's way up and other days it's
Is
like
it?
who am I and why am I here?
Why am I here?
But
You
but
know, even in the chat here, you know, we all struggle with this. I definitely focus on negative more.
ooh, yes.
Um, feel it like a total failure. I mean, this is, you know, we don't have to feel that way. We can switch that emotion. I think I got better at thinking less about failures, but have not swapped it for celebrating the positives. I think this may be the missing piece of the puzzle. I
Mm,
totally agree with that statement.
mhm.
That's lovely. Um, and then
Yes, see, ditto forgotten unless somebody reminds me. That's true.
thank you
I
for today, she said as well.
Oh, yeah, way more time on failures. It's something that we do, and how do we switch that habit? How does the habit become,
Mhm.
okay, I'm over that and now I'm going to really focus on, I will literally tell you the day that I decided to start writing my hype book, my personal one, after watching the Muhammad Ali documentary. I literally sat in my living room floor for 2 days just writing in detail, journaling about the different things that I had accomplished and just who I was. There was such an ascension of confidence that rose up in me because I shifted how I was looking at myself. That was 2 days. 2 days prior to that, I was, what have I done? Oh my goodness, I'm such a loser. And I realized it was a matter of perspective. And that
Mhm.
perspective shift became a paradigm shift in my life that I realized I needed to make that an essential part of my daily living so that I could consistently walk in this place of confidence because I'm so much better for the rooms I show up in when I'm walking with my confidence. And I think all of us, are. So how do we nourish and nurture that muscle so that it works for us again and not works against us?
Well, I think one of the key points here, Toni, is that you took time for yourself.
Yeah,
You carved out 2 days for just you to be able to do that. And as women, I feel like sometimes we think that's selfish to take time for ourselves, but it's so
right.
important for our healing and ability to move forward to do that.
Yeah.
Whether it's on a daily basis, whether it's a chunk of time like you took, you know, those 2 days, or even in the morning, like Monica recently did a piece on her morning ritual, which is an hour to an hour and a half every morning.
I love
What a
that.
lovely way to start the day.
Yeah.
So, you know, I encourage everyone, including myself, to take that time for yourself to be able to pause, to reflect, and think about who we are and who we want to be. And a really good place to start is this book. And I just am so grateful, Toni, for to have met you and for
Oh.
you to share your wise words today. Do you have any closing thoughts that
I
you'd like to share?
honestly, I just hope whether you use my hype book as yours, and here's the other thing, I called it my hype book on purpose, um, because I want every person that has this on their nightstand or their coffee table or wherever, that when you look at that book, that you are declaring, that is my hype book. That is me looking at myself and seeing myself for who I truly am and where I can be reminded, of who it is. But whether you're using this or you're just doing a journal, I highly encourage you to do it because it is a major shift in how you see yourself and how you value yourself and how you expect others to value you as
Mhm.
well. That value thing, I think, is something that women often struggle with. But I think it's partly because we aren't seeing it. Men don't seem to have a problem valuing themselves. What's that statistic that a man will apply for a position with 60% of the qualifications, where a woman will want to have 100 and then some. We want to check
Mhm.
every box before we even consider throwing our name in the hat.
Yep.
That impacts value. So if we get in the practice of shifting how we see ourselves and understanding the value and contribution that we make, it's life-changing, and it just makes you that much better, that much more proud of who you are, and it really helps others to value you more, or those around you to value you more as well.
And Toni, I'd love for you to share your quote one more time.
Oh, the presence of humility should not mean the absence of personal accolade. So you can still
So
walk in
powerful.
humility, but you can celebrate yourself, pat yourself on the back, feel good about who you are, because it helps other people to recognize that in you as well.
Toni, thank you so much. What
Thank
a
you.
lovely way to start the morning. Thank you
Thank
for
you
being
so
here.
much.
I'm
I
going to toss
appreciate
it.
it.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, we're so thrilled. So I'm going to pass it over to Monica to share more about Rebel 11.
Thank you so much, Toni and Joni. This was such an amazing way to start the day. I really needed it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
before
Thank
you
you.
take off and take charge of your day with this new confidence, I wanted to go over a few of our upcoming events. Next Tuesday is Understanding Men, a crash
In
course.
contrast,
Yes, exactly, with Shana James, who has coached more than 1,000 men who will share her valuable insights, and Joni will be interviewing her, so it should be really fun. July 13th will be with Lisa Levine, who will be exploring how to embrace midlife and to feel as empowered as possible. Friday, July 16th, I will be having a conversation with Suzanne Simard, the world-renowned scientist, about how trees communicate. And I love this concept because I think it's just a reminder of how interconnected our
yes.
world really is. And then on July 20th, we'll have Ellen Newhouse back, inspiring us with her guidance around self-love. We also have yoga classes and Pilates and some great upcoming retreats that are yoga and hiking that you can check out on our website at revel11.com. So hope you guys have a fantastic day. Toni, thank you so much. See
Thank
you
you.
guys
This was
soon.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day today. We hope to see you on revel11.com and soon here online. Take care.